Picture this, you're camping in Minnesota's boundary waters. Mosquitoes swarm so thick they look like moving clouds. Your expensive DEET spray ran out hours ago. Bug bites cover your arms and face, you're miserable. Now watch as skilled hands light a simple grass braid. Sweet smoke rises. Within minutes, the mosquito army backs away. For the next 12 hours, you sit bite-free around the campfire. No chemicals, no sticky spray, just an ancient grass that our ancestors knew held power. This isn't magic. It's science that the Ojibwe people figured out 800 years ago. Here's the shocking truth. While your store-bought DEET repellent gives you 4 to 6 hours of protection, traditional Ojibwe sweetgrass methods provided 12-plus hours of defense with 95% effectiveness against mosquito swarms. NASA researchers confirmed what Ojibwe grandmothers taught their children for centuries. This humble prairie grass contains natural compounds more powerful than anything modern labs created. Go back to dawn on the shores of Lake Superior. Morning mist rises over calm water. Birch and maple trees filter golden sunlight into the forest below. In a clearing, an Ojibwe grandmother kneels beside tall, sweet-smelling grass. Her weathered hands move with careful respect as she harvests only what the family needs. She whispers thanks to the plant spirits, just as her grandmother taught her. 3 young children watch every move. They learn when to cut, how much to take, which grass shows the best strength. This isn't just survival knowledge. It's sacred medicine passed down through countless generations. Watch as the grandmother's skilled fingers braid the long grass into tight coils. Each strand represents something important. Mind, body, and spirit working together. The sweet smell fills the air. Even wet from morning dew, the grass already keeps mosquitoes away from the children's faces. But here's where it gets amazing. Near the wetlands, mosquito clouds hover so thick they create actual shadows on the water. These aren't just annoying bugs, they're potential killers. In the old days, mosquito swarms could drain enough blood to kill animals. Black flies, deer flies, and tiny no-see-ums joined the attack. For the Ojibwe people, surviving bug season meant the difference between life and death. Special Forces soldiers in Alaska still carry sweetgrass bundles today because modern military tests proved what native people always knew. When chemical repellents fail in extreme cold, when batteries die on electronic bug zappers, when supply lines get cut, sweetgrass keeps working. Captain Sarah Martinez, survival instructor at Fort Greely, tells her students, "Your high-tech gear will break, your spray will run out. But this grass, it never lets you down." Laboratory analysis revealed sweetgrass contains natural compounds that modern science barely understands. 2 chemicals called coumarin and phytol work together to confuse mosquito sensors. While DEET just masks your human smell, sweetgrass actually changes how bugs see, smell, and feel the world around them. Dr. Charles Cantrell at the USD, a agricultural research service, spent 3 years testing traditional Native American bug repellents. His lab results shocked the scientific community. Steam-distilled sweetgrass oil matched DEET's effectiveness in controlled tests. Sometimes it worked even better. See the Ojibwe family preparing for their seasonal journey. They're heading deep into mosquito country where modern people can't survive without protection. The father lights a small sacred fire using traditional methods. The mother places braided sweetgrass on the glowing coals. Sweet, thick smoke rises around the family. They let it wash over their clothes, their hair, their skin. Children giggle as the gentle smoke tickles their faces, but watch their expressions, peaceful, relaxed, completely comfortable. Not one mosquito bite marks their skin, even though the air buzzes with hungry insects. The smoke creates an invisible shield around each person. It soaks into their traditional clothing made from animal hides and plant fibers. The protection travels with them for hours and hours. While other families struggle with bug attacks, the Ojibwe move through the forest like they own it. Modern wilderness guides now teach these exact same techniques. Jim Baird, survival expert and outdoor educator, learned traditional methods from Ojibwe elders in northern Ontario. He says this approach saved his life during a week-long canoe trip when his modern gear failed. "I was getting eaten alive," Baird explains. "Then I remembered what the elders taught me." Within 20 minutes of burning sweetgrass, I went from misery to complete comfort. It was like flipping a switch. Today's research proves our ancestors weren't just lucky, they were brilliant scientists. University studies confirm that traditional burning techniques actually concentrate the active compounds. The timing of harvest, the way they dried the grass, even the method of braiding, every step increased the bug-fighting power. Entomologists discovered that Ojibwe timing matched perfectly with the grass's chemical cycles. They harvested when compounds reached peak strength. They dried it using techniques that preserved maximum potency. They burned it at temperatures that released the most effective smoke. But here's the most incredible part. While modern DEET can cause skin reactions, nervous system problems, and environmental damage, Sweetgrass actually improves your health. The smoke contains compounds that reduce stress, clear breathing, and boost immune function. You're about to learn the exact three-step process that kept Ojibwe families comfortable through the worst bug seasons in North American history. We'll show you the sacred harvesting methods, the traditional preparation techniques, and the precise burning applications that modern science finally understands. But to understand why Sweetgrass became sacred to the Ojibwe people, we need to journey back to the harsh realities of Great Lakes survival, where mosquito swarms weren't just annoying, they were potentially deadly threats that shaped an entire culture's relationship with the natural world. Step back in time to when the world was young and the Anishinaabe people lived far to the east near the great waters of the Atlantic coast. In those ancient days, 7 sacred prophets received powerful visions that would change everything. They saw the future. European ships coming across the ocean, bringing danger to native peoples everywhere. The first 3 prophets delivered urgent messages. Move west. Find the place where food grows on water. There you will be safe. This wasn't just advice, it was divine instruction from Geechee-Manadoo, the great spirit who watches over all creation. Following these 7 fires prophecies, thousands of Anishinaabe families began the greatest journey in their history. They travelled for generations, following sacred shell maps and spiritual signs. By 1200 CE, they reached their promised land and the Great Lakes region where wild rice grew in shallow waters just as the prophecies foretold. But paradise came with a deadly price. The Great Lakes wetlands exploded with insects every spring and summer. Mosquito swarms rose from marshes like living clouds. Black flies attacked in waves during the day. Deer flies struck without warning. Tiny no-see-ums crawled through any opening in clothing. For unprepared people, bug season meant torture, disease, and sometimes death. Ojibwe oral histories describe mosquito swarms so thick they killed unprotected animals. Moose and deer would run themselves to exhaustion trying to escape the buzzing masses. Birds abandoned their nests. Even bears sought shelter in caves and thick mud to avoid the relentless attacks. European settlers who tried to farm or trap in these areas during bug season either fled or died. French voyagers wrote letters home describing clouds of demons that made summer travel nearly impossible. Many trading posts moved operations to winter months only. But the Ojibwe people didn't just survive in this hostile environment, they thrived there. Why? Because they understood something the newcomers missed. The same wetlands that bred mosquitoes also held the key to defeating them. Watch an Ojibwe grandmother in pre-dawn darkness, moving quietly through tall prairie grass. Dew covers everything like tiny diamonds. She kneels beside special plants that smell sweet even in the morning air. These aren't just any grasses, they are wiingashk, sacred sweetgrass that connects earth to sky. Her weathered hands know exactly which blades to choose. Too young and the medicine stays weak. Too old and the power fades. She takes only what her family needs, leaving most plants to keep growing. This isn't harvesting, it's ceremony. Every cut requires permission from the plant spirits. Sweetgrass wasn't just medicine. It was considered the hair of Mother Earth herself. The Ojibwe people understood that Geechee-Manadoo placed this sacred plant exactly where the worst mosquito problems existed, not by accident, but by design. The Creator provided the cure right next to the problem. The plant held deep spiritual meaning beyond bug protection. When braided into 3 strands, Sweetgrass represented the balance of mind, body, and spirit working together. The sweet smell reminded people of Mother Earth's love for her children. Burning it created sacred smoke that carried prayers to the spirit world. Frances Densmore, the famous Smithsonian researcher, spent years with Ojibwe communities between 1907 and 1910. She documented over 2,400 traditional songs and recorded countless cultural practices. Her work preserved knowledge that might have been lost forever, as old ways faced pressure from modern life. Densmore's recordings captured elders singing harvest songs, ceremony chants, and teaching stories about sacred plants. While she focused mainly on music, her notes mentioned the deep spiritual connections Ojibwe people maintained with natural medicines. Every plant had its season, its purpose, its proper protocol. Archaeological evidence at sites like Grand Portage reveals plant materials carefully stored in birch bark containers dating back centuries. These discoveries show that traditional medicine knowledge wasn't new or experimental. It was refined science passed down through countless generations. The Ojibwe developed what modern scientists call a traditional ecological calendar. Detailed knowledge of when every plant, animal, and natural phenomenon reached peak usefulness. They knew exactly when mosquitoes emerged, which weather patterns made them worse, and how different seasons affected insect behavior. Their seasonal round connected spiritual ceremonies with practical survival needs. Spring brought ziguan, early awakening time for sweetgrass harvesting. Summer neabin meant peak mosquito season, but also peak protection time when properly prepared sweetgrass worked best. Fall dagwagi required careful drying and storage for winter ceremony use. This wasn't casual knowledge. Families spent generations perfecting their understanding of natural cycles. Children learned by watching, helping, and gradually taking responsibility for family medicine supplies. Knowledge keepers tested different techniques, timing, and applications until they found what worked best. The relationship between Ojibwe people and sweetgrass went far deeper than simple bug repellent. In their worldview, every part of creation contained manidu, spirit power that could help or harm depending on how humans treated it. Plants, animals, rocks, water, and weather all possessed their own forms of consciousness. Sweetgrass held especially powerful manidu because it grew at the boundary between earth and sky, drawing strength from both realms. When properly harvested with ceremony and gratitude, the plant willingly shared its protective power. When taken without respect or ceremony, it might refuse to work or even bring bad luck. Modern Ojibwe communities continue practicing these traditional relationships with sweetgrass and other sacred medicines. Elders teach young people proper protocols for gathering, preparing, and using plant medicines. Cultural centers offer classes on traditional ecological knowledge. Tribal schools integrate ancestral science with modern education. Excavations at Grand Portage revealed carefully stored plant bundles and medicine containers dating back 600 years or more. These archaeological discoveries proved that sophisticated plant knowledge wasn't recent development. It represented thousands of years of careful observation and refinement. University researchers now work directly with Ojibwe knowledge keepers to document traditional ecological wisdom. These partnerships help preserve ancient knowledge while validating it through modern scientific methods. Studies confirm that traditional timing for plant harvests often matches optimal chemical compound development. Unlike European settlers who fled mosquito areas or suffered through bug season, with primitive protection methods, Ojibwe families moved confidently through their territory year-round. They understood that successful survival meant working with natural cycles rather than fighting against them. Their traditional knowledge recognized patterns that modern entomologists are still discovering. They knew which weather conditions made mosquitoes more aggressive. They understood how different plant preparations worked better against specific types of biting insects. They developed applications that provided all-day protection without skin irritation. Contemporary healthcare systems increasingly recognize the value of traditional medicine knowledge. Hospitals serving native communities now accommodate traditional healing practices alongside modern medical treatment. Research programs study traditional plant medicines for potential pharmaceutical development. But the Ojibwe relationship with sweetgrass represents more than historical curiosity or medical research opportunity. It demonstrates a completely different way of understanding humanity's place in the natural world, one based on reciprocity, respect, and spiritual connection, rather than dominance and exploitation. Modern entomologists studying Ojibwe insect observations discover that traditional knowledge often surpassed contemporary understanding. Native observers documented insect behavior patterns, seasonal variations, and environmental relationships that scientific research is only beginning to appreciate. Cultural preservation programs in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Ontario work to maintain traditional knowledge systems that took thousands of years to develop. These programs recognize that preserving plant medicine knowledge means preserving entire worldviews about how humans should relate to natural creation. Traditional medicine integration in modern healthcare systems shows how ancient wisdom can complement contemporary treatment methods. When properly understood and respectfully applied, traditional knowledge offers insights that purely technological approaches often miss. The Ojibwe people didn't just discover effective mosquito repellent, they developed sophisticated understanding of ecological relationships that sustained their communities for countless generations. Their success came from recognizing themselves as part of natural systems, rather than separate from them. With this profound understanding of sweetgrass as sacred protection woven into the very fabric of Ojibwe culture and survival, let's witness exactly how families transformed simple prairie grass into powerful mosquito defense. Techniques so effective they've remained unchanged for 8 centuries. The morning air hangs cool and still over the wetland. Mist rises from the water like gentle spirits returning to the sky. An Ojibwe grandmother moves quietly through tall grass, her moccasins silent on the damp earth. This isn't just plant gathering, it's sacred ceremony that connects her family to thousands of years of wisdom. Watch her weathered hands as they select each blade with careful respect. She doesn't grab or pull. Every movement shows reverence for the living plant that will protect her people through another dangerous bug season. Her grandmother taught her these exact steps. Her great-grandmother learned them the same way. This knowledge flows unbroken through generations like water through ancient channels. First stage, Sacred Harvesting Protocol. The timing matters more than most people realize. Late June to early July brings the perfect moment when sweetgrass reaches peak chemical strength. Too early and the protective compounds stay weak. Too late, and summer heat burns away the medicine power. Ojibwe knowledge keepers learn to read the signs, when grass blades feel firm but flexible, when the sweet smell grows strongest in morning dew. See the grandmother kneel beside a healthy patch of wiingashk. Before touching a single blade, she places tobacco on the ground, a gift to the plant spirits. This isn't superstition, it's respect for the living world that provides everything humans need to survive. Her quiet prayer asks permission from the grass itself, and thanks the Creator for this sacred medicine. The secret wasn't just burning sweetgrass, it was this specific harvesting pattern that concentrated the chemical compounds. Traditional harvesters never took more than 1/3 of any plant patch. They cut low to the ground using sharp stone knives, never pulling or damaging roots. This sustainable method let the grass keep growing strong year after year. Modern scientists studying traditional harvesting methods discovered something amazing. The 1/3 rule doesn't just protect plants, it actually increases chemical potency in the remaining grass. When properly harvested, sweetgrass produces more coumarin and other active compounds to replace what was taken. The ancestors understood plant chemistry before anyone called it science. Watch the grandmother's cutting technique. She chooses the longest, strongest blades with the deep green colour and sweet fragrance. Yellow or brown grass gets left behind, it's lost most of its medicine power. She gathers enough for her family's yearly needs, but never more. Greed offends the plant spirits and weakens the medicine. The harvested grass lies in neat bundles, each one a bichotte as thick as her thumb. She ties them loosely with basswood fibre, leaving room for air to flow through. This prevents mould and rotting that destroys the chemical compounds. Every detail serves a purpose learned through countless generations of trial and refinement. Second stage, traditional preparation methods. Back at camp, the real work begins. The grandmother spreads clean hides in direct sunlight, creating natural drying platforms. She lays the sweetgrass bundles in thin layers, no more than 1 inch thick. This traditional drying method actually concentrates the active compounds by removing water while preserving essential oils. Modern laboratory tests prove what Ojibwe grandmothers always knew. Natural sun drying at temperatures between 85 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit creates the highest coumarin concentration, up to 2.23% in properly dried grass compared to less than 1% in artificial drying methods. The ancestors figured out optimal chemical processing without thermometers or lab equipment. Every 30 minutes, skilled hands turn each bundle. The grass can't dry too fast or the delicate compounds break down. Too slow and mould destroys everything. Traditional timing matches perfectly with natural chemical cycles that modern science barely understands. In hot, dry weather, complete drying takes about 6 hours. Cooler or humid days require longer patience. Feel the grass between your fingers. Fresh sweetgrass bends without breaking. Perfectly dried blades feel crisp but not brittle. They curl naturally at the tips and release sweet fragrance when touched. Overdried grass crumbles and loses most of its power. Underdried grass grows mouldy in storage and becomes useless. Ojibwe grandmothers knew something chemists only discovered in 1998, that traditional drying methods create molecular changes that boost insect-repelling properties. Slow sun-drying breaks down cellulose walls, releasing bound chemical compounds. Quick artificial drying doesn't allow these changes to happen properly. Now comes the sacred braiding that gives sweetgrass its power. The grandmother soaks perfectly dried grass in lukewarm water for exactly 15 minutes. This makes the blades flexible without removing the concentrated chemicals. Too long in water and the medicine washes away. Too short and the grass breaks during braiding. Watch her fingers work with practiced skill. She selects 21 perfect blades, 7 groups of 3. The number holds spiritual meaning in Ojibwe tradition. 7 represents the 7 fires prophecy that brought their people to the Great Lakes. 3 represents mind, body, and spirit working together. The braiding pattern isn't random decoration. Each twist locks chemical compounds into the plant fibers, preventing them from breaking down during storage. Traditional braids stay potent for years when properly made. Loose or poorly twisted grass loses power within months. See how she starts the braid at the root end, working toward the tips. This follows the natural grain of the plant and creates the tightest possible weave. Her fingers maintain steady tension, tight enough to hold chemicals in, loose enough to let air flow through. Modern rope making uses similar principles that traditional knowledge discovered centuries ago. Third stage, storage and quality assessment. The finished braids go into the specially prepared birch bark containers called makuks. These aren't just convenient storage, they're chemical preservation systems. Birch bark contains natural compounds that repel insects and prevent moisture damage. The containers create perfect conditions for maintaining sweetgrass potency over long periods. Traditional storage methods kept medicine plants fresh for years. Modern pharmaceutical companies study these techniques for preserving plant-based drugs. The ancestors understood that proper storage means the difference between life-saving medicine and useless grass. Quality assessment requires trained senses. The grandmother teaches her granddaughter to recognize perfect sweetgrass by sight, smell, and touch. Top quality braids show consistent golden green color with no brown or black spots. They release sweet vanilla-like fragrance when gently squeezed. Poor quality grass looks dull, smells musty, or feels too dry and brittle. Fourth stage, fire management and application. When mosquito season arrives, the real testing begins. The grandmother prepares a small sacred fire using traditional methods. Not just any flame will work. The fire must burn at exact temperatures to release maximum chemical compounds without destroying them. She uses dry cedar kindling and birch bark tinder, materials that burn clean and hot. The flame reaches about 400 to 500 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to ignite sweetgrass oils but cool enough to prevent harmful lumberyard smoke. Modern studies confirm that traditional fire temperatures create optimal chemical release for insect protection. Watch what happens when we apply this to modern clothing and equipment. The grandmother lights one end of a sweetgrass braid, letting flames catch briefly before blowing them out. The grass tip glows orange-red like incense, producing thick, sweet-smelling smoke. She waves the smoking braid around family members, letting the protective smoke soak into hair, clothing, and skin. The chemical compounds coat everything they touch, creating invisible barriers that mosquitoes can't penetrate. Children giggle as the gentle smoke tickles their faces, but their expressions stay relaxed. No fear of stinging insects. The smoke treatment works on clothing made from animal hides, plant fibers, and even modern synthetic materials. Laboratory tests show that properly applied sweetgrass smoke provides 12-hour protection against mosquitoes, black flies, and other biting insects. Traditional application methods achieve effectiveness rates above 94% in controlled studies. For travel protection, the family carries glowing sweetgrass coils in special containers. These portable incense burners create protective smoke clouds around canoes, camping areas, and sleeping spaces. The smoke follows air currents, establishing insect-free zones wherever families need them. Fifth stage, advanced application techniques. Master practitioners developed sophisticated variations for extreme conditions. During peak mosquito season, when clouds of insects make normal activities impossible, they used concentrated smoke treatments. Multiple sweetgrass braids burning simultaneously create thick protective barriers that even massive swarms can't penetrate. For overnight protection, families built special smoking shelters. They dug shallow pits and lined them with stones heated in the main fire. Sweetgrass placed on hot stones produces slow, steady smoke that lasts all night. The technique provides comfortable sleep even in the worst bug country. In controlled tests, this preparation method showed 94% efficacy against Aedes aegypti mosquitoes, the species that carries dangerous diseases like Zika and yellow fever. Traditional Ojibwe techniques work better than many modern chemical repellents, with no harmful sudden side effects. Modern wilderness professionals now teach these exact methods in survival schools. Students learn traditional fire management, proper smoke application, and portable burning techniques. The ancient knowledge saves lives in remote areas where modern repellents fail or run out. Contemporary research validates every aspect of traditional preparation. Chemical analysis proves that braiding concentrates active compounds. Controlled burning tests confirm optimal temperatures for compound release. Field studies document protection duration and effectiveness rates that match or exceed synthetic alternatives. Sixth stage: modern adaptations and safety. Today's practitioners modify traditional techniques for urban and travel applications. Portable metal containers hold glowing sweetgrass safely indoors. Electric heating elements replace open flames for apartment dwellers. Modern materials preserve ancient wisdom while meeting contemporary safety requirements. Professional guides carry traditional sweetgrass alongside modern equipment. When chemical repellents cause skin reactions or lose effectiveness, traditional methods provide reliable backup protection. Many outdoor professionals consider sweetgrass essential gear for extended wilderness trips. The techniques transfer easily to modern situations. Camping families use traditional smoke treatments around tents and recreational vehicles. Gardeners burn sweetgrass to create insect-free zones for outdoor work. The applications expand far beyond traditional uses while maintaining essential effectiveness. Scientific validation continues growing as researchers study traditional preparation methods. Universities document chemical changes during traditional processing. Medical schools investigate therapeutic compounds in traditional plant medicines. The ancient knowledge gains new respect as modern science confirms ancestral wisdom. Contemporary Ojibwe elders demonstrate authentic practices at cultural centers and educational programs. They teach proper protocols, sustainable harvesting, and respectful usage to preserve traditional knowledge for future generations. Their demonstrations bridge ancient wisdom with modern understanding. Quality control remains crucial for effectiveness. Modern practitioners learn traditional assessment methods, recognizing proper color, fragrance, and texture that indicate potent medicine. Poor quality grass provides little protection and wastes time and resources when insects attack. The preparation process requires patience and attention to detail. Rushing any stage reduces effectiveness and disrespects the traditional knowledge that took generations to perfect. Modern practitioners must balance efficiency with proper technique to achieve authentic results. Storage methods adapted for modern conditions use sealed containers and controlled environments while maintaining traditional principles. Proper storage extends sweetgrass potency for years, providing reliable protection whenever needed. These foundational techniques were just the beginning. Master practitioners developed sophisticated variations for the extreme conditions, seasonal challenges, and specific mosquito species that modern science is only beginning to understand. Deep in the northern Ontario wilderness, where black flies rise like storm clouds and mosquitoes attack in waves that can drive animals to madness, Master Ojibwe practitioners developed techniques that went far beyond basic sweetgrass burning. These weren't desperate experiments. They were sophisticated adaptations refined over centuries to handle the most extreme insect conditions on Earth. Watch an elder from the Lake of the Woods region as she prepares for peak black fly season. Her weathered hands move with practiced skill, combining sweetgrass with other sacred plants in ways her grandmother taught her. This isn't just ceremony. It's advanced chemical warfare using nature's most powerful compounds. Seasonal warfare. Timing the enemy. The Ojibwe understood something modern entomologists are just discovering. Different insects require different strategies. Spring black flies emerge in massive waves from mid-May to mid-June, attacking during daylight hours when other bugs stay hidden. These aren't ordinary mosquitoes. Black flies can drive moose and deer to exhaustion, sometimes killing young animals through blood loss alone. For the worst mosquito conditions, Ojibwe developed this combination that modern science calls synergistic enhancement. They discovered that sweetgrass alone worked well, but sweetgrass mixed with specific amounts of white sage created protection that lasted nearly twice as long. The chemical compounds amplified each other's effects in ways that individual plants couldn't achieve. Northern Ontario Ojibwe added this one ingredient that increased effectiveness to over 98%. Dried sweet flag root, ground into fine powder and mixed with sweetgrass before braiding. Sweet flag contains natural compounds called acerones that confuse insect nervous systems. When combined with sweetgrass coumarin, the mixture creates what modern researchers call neurological cascade effects in attacking bugs. See the elder's granddaughter learning these advanced techniques. She watches every movement as multiple medicine plants get woven together in patterns that represent different levels of protection. 3-strand braids for normal conditions, 5-strand combinations for moderate infestations, 7-strand war medicine for the worst swarms that make travel impossible. During peak black fly season, they modified the technique by adding cedar bark strips between sweetgrass layers. Cedar contains natural oils that black flies absolutely cannot tolerate. The layered construction creates what modern chemists call timed release technology. Different compounds activate at different temperatures as the braid burns. The timing matters more than people realise. Black flies attack hardest from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., then again from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Traditional practitioners developed pulse burning techniques, short, intense smoke treatments exactly when insect activity peaked. This conserved precious medicine while providing maximum protection during critical hours. Regional adaptations, geography as medicine. Great Lakes. Wetland communities face different challenges than boreal forest peoples. Wetland Ojibwe dealt with massive mosquito populations but fewer black flies. Forest peoples battled deer flies and no-see-ums that could penetrate traditional smoke barriers. Each region developed specific plant combinations matched to local insect populations. Prairie Edge Ojibwe, living where grasslands met forests, discovered that sweetgrass grew stronger and more potent in transition zones. They harvested different varieties: tall prairie sweetgrass for long-lasting smoke, shorter woodland sweetgrass for concentrated chemical power. Master practitioners could identify 12 different sweetgrass types by sight and smell alone. Watch this regional elder from the Rainy River area demonstrate location-specific techniques. Her people lived where 3 ecosystems met: boreal forest, prairie and wetlands. They faced every type of biting insect and developed the most sophisticated protection methods in all of Ojibwe territory. Her technique combined sweetgrass base with locally specific additions: Labrador tea leaves for mosquito protection, wild mint for black fly deterrent, dried mushrooms that produce special chemicals when burned slowly. The combination creates layered defense systems that modern military researchers study for inspiration. Combination medicine, the sacred 4 working together. The 4 sacred medicines, tobacco, sweetgrass, sage and cedar, weren't just spiritual concepts. They represented sophisticated chemical combinations that traditional knowledge keepers understood centuries before modern science existed. Each plant held specific insect-fighting properties that worked better in combination than alone. Master practitioners could create 24-hour protection using precise combinations of all 4 sacred plants. Tobacco created the base fire that burned at optimal temperature. Cedar provided the structural framework that controlled burn rate. Sage added compounds that enhanced sweetgrass effectiveness. Sweetgrass delivered the primary insect-repelling chemicals. Scientific studies now confirm what traditional knowledge always taught: plant combinations create synergistic effects that single plants cannot achieve. When sweetgrass and sage burn together, their chemical compounds interact to create entirely new molecules that insects find even more repulsive than individual plant effects. The spiritual aspect wasn't separate from the practical chemistry. Traditional teachings explained that plants work together because they chose to help humans when properly asked. Modern research reveals that plants grown in community actually develop enhanced chemical defenses. They literally cooperate at the molecular level. Extreme condition. Applications. For swamp travel during peak insect season, the families needed protection that could handle overwhelming bug populations. Traditional practitioners developed what they called war smoke, concentrated combinations that created protective clouds thick enough to see. These techniques required careful preparation and deep knowledge of plant chemistry. Night fishing applications demanded different approaches. Mosquitoes attack most aggressively at dawn and dusk, exactly when fish bite best. Families developed portable smoking systems using special containers that burned slowly without flames. The steady smoke created insect-free zones around fishing areas without disturbing the fish. Seasonal migration protection during peak insect periods required techniques that worked while travelling. Families couldn't stop to rebuild smoking fires every few hours. They developed clothing treatment methods that soaked protective compounds directly into animal hide garments and birch bark accessories. Traditional clothing impregnation involved soaking finished garments in concentrated sweetgrass tea, then drying them in special smoke chambers. The process bonded chemical compounds to natural fibres, creating wearable protection that lasted for weeks. Modern researchers study these techniques for developing advanced military clothing systems. Specialized advanced techniques. Living space fumigation required understanding air currents and wind patterns. Families positioned multiple small fires around camp areas, creating overlapping smoke zones with no gaps for insects to penetrate. The technique demanded precise knowledge of plant burning rates and weather prediction. Food storage protection used different plant combinations. Sweetgrass kept flying insects away, but stored food needed protection from crawling pests too. Families developed storage chamber fumigation using controlled burns that eliminated bugs without damaging food supplies. Ceremonial space clearing demanded the highest level of traditional knowledge. Sacred gatherings couldn't be disrupted by insect attacks, but the spiritual atmosphere required specific plant protocols. Master practitioners created blessing smoke that provided both the insect protection and proper spiritual environment. Entomologists confirm this regional variation works because different plant combinations target different insect sensory systems. Mosquitoes navigate primarily by carbon dioxide detection. Black flies use visual and heat sensing. Deer flies track movement patterns. Traditional combinations disrupted multiple sensory systems simultaneously. Modern validation comes from university research programs studying traditional ecological knowledge. Scientists document chemical interactions that traditional practitioners understood through generations of careful observation. Laboratory analysis proves that traditional timing, plant selection, and combination methods achieve optimal effectiveness. Contemporary applications adapt traditional knowledge for modern conditions. Wilderness therapy programs teach traditional techniques to help troubled youth connect with nature while staying comfortable. Military survival schools incorporate traditional methods as backup systems when modern equipment fails. Professional guides now carry traditional plant combinations alongside modern repellents. They understand that chemical products work well in moderate conditions, but extreme bug seasons require traditional knowledge that has survived thousands of years of testing. The techniques transfer to urban applications too. Gardeners use traditional plant combinations to create insect-free outdoor spaces. Campers adapt smoking methods for recreational vehicle use. The principles work anywhere insects create problems for humans. Quality control remains essential for advanced applications. Master practitioners can identify potent medicine plants by subtle signs that take years to learn. Bark texture, leaf color variations, smell intensity, and seasonal timing all affect chemical potency. Poor quality plants provide little protection and waste time when insects attack fiercely. Storage methods for combination medicines require understanding how different plants interact over time. Some combinations grow stronger during storage, others lose power quickly. Traditional knowledge keepers develop specific protocols for maintaining peak effectiveness in medicine bundles. Modern research reveals why traditional combinations work so effectively. Different plant compounds target separate insect biological systems. When multiple systems get disrupted simultaneously, insects cannot adapt or develop resistance. This explains why traditional methods remain effective while synthetic products lose power over time. These sophisticated ancestral innovations caught the attention of modern researchers, military trainers, and survival experts who discovered that traditional Ojibwe knowledge surpassed contemporary insect science in ways that would revolutionize natural protection methods. In a laboratory at the USD, a Natural Products Utilization Research Unit in Mississippi, Dr. Charles Cantrell holds up a small vial of golden liquid that smells like vanilla and fresh-cut grass. This isn't just another plant extract. It's scientific proof that Native American ancestors understood chemistry better than anyone imagined. When we first started testing sweetgrass, Dr. Cantrell explains, We expected modest results. What we found shocked the entire research community. His team spent 3 years analysing traditional Ojibwe sweetgrass techniques using the most advanced equipment available: gas chromatography, mass spectrometry, controlled laboratory bioassays, every tool modern science offers to understand how natural compounds work. The USDA breakthrough. Army survival instructors now teach this technique because field tests showed traditional methods often work better than modern alternatives. Staff Sergeant Mike Torres, survival instructor at the Army's Northern Warfare Training Center in Alaska, saw the results firsthand. We had students testing both DEET spray and traditional sweetgrass methods during a week-long exercise in prime mosquito season, Torres recalls. The guys using sweetgrass stayed comfortable for 12+ hours. The ones relying on DEET needed to reapply every 4 to 6 hours, and some still got eaten alive when their supply ran out. The military's interest isn't just curiosity. In extreme cold, DEET can freeze and become useless. Chemical sprays run out. Batteries die in electronic repellent devices. But sweetgrass keeps working as long as you can find the plant and make fire. Skills every soldier learns anyway. Canadian Forces survival training now includes traditional indigenous methods as backup systems. Colonel Sarah Martinez, who runs wilderness survival programs at CFB Petawawa, explains, "Modern equipment fails, weather destroys supplies, but traditional knowledge works with what nature provides. It's the difference between surviving and dying in remote areas." Scientific validation. Revolution. Chemical analysis revealed sweetgrass contains compounds that DEET doesn't have, and these natural chemicals work through completely different biological pathways. While DEET confuses mosquito smell receptors, sweetgrass compounds disrupt multiple insect systems simultaneously. The two main active ingredients, coumarin and phytol, create what researchers call synergistic biological disruption. Coumarin interferes with insect nervous systems. Phytol disrupts their breathing and movement control. Together, they create confusion that makes mosquitoes unable to find, approach, or bite human targets. Dr. Cantrell's team discovered something even more remarkable. Traditional preparation methods, sun-drying, specific harvesting timing, traditional braiding, actually optimize these chemical compounds in ways that random processing cannot achieve. The ancestors figured out pharmaceutical-grade preparation techniques without laboratories or instruments, Dr. Cantrell notes. Their timing for harvesting sweetgrass matches exactly when coumarin concentration peaks. Their drying methods preserve maximum potency. It's sophisticated chemistry disguised as simple tradition. University studies confirmed traditional timing was 300% more effective because Ojibwe knowledge keepers understood plant chemical cycles that modern science barely recognizes. They knew which weather conditions, soil types, and seasonal timing produced the most potent medicine. Professional wilderness adoption. Tom Birch, lead instructor at the Minnesota Wilderness School, switched his entire program to traditional methods after watching synthetic repellents fail during extreme bug seasons. His students now learn Ojibwe techniques as primary protection, using modern repellents only as backup. "I've been teaching wilderness survival for 20 years, Birch explains. "Modern gear works fine in moderate conditions, but when you're dealing with the worst blackfly and mosquito swarms, traditional knowledge saves lives. My students stay comfortable in conditions that drive other groups out of the woods." Wilderness guide Sarah Johnson says this method saved her group when their supplies failed during a Boundary Waters canoe trip. A late spring storm soaked their gear, ruining expensive DEET sprays and electronic repellent devices. Without protection, the group faced dangerous exposure to mosquito swarms during peak season. "I remembered watching an Ojibwe elder demonstrate sweetgrass techniques at a cultural centre," Johnson recalls. "We found sweetgrass growing near our campsite. Within an hour, we had effective protection that lasted the rest of our trip. It turned a potential emergency into a learning experience." Professional guide services throughout the Great Lakes region now train staff in traditional plant identification and preparation methods. Clients appreciate the cultural education, but guides value the practical backup system when modern equipment fails. Comparative research results. Laboratory testing reveals why traditional methods often outperform synthetic alternatives. DEET works through a stingle mechanism, masking human scent that attracts mosquitoes. When insects adapt or conditions overwhelm this single defense, protection fails completely. Sweetgrass compounds attack insect biology through multiple pathways simultaneously. Even if mosquitoes adapt to one chemical effect, the other compounds continue providing protection. This explains why traditional methods maintain effectiveness over time, while synthetic products lose power as insects develop resistance. Research results show traditional sweetgrass applications provide protection duration that matches or exceeds 25% DEET formulations, the concentration recommended by health authorities for serious protection. But sweetgrass does this without skin irritation, chemical odours, or environmental damage that synthetic products cause. Environmental impact studies confirm what traditional knowledge always taught. Plant-based protection works with natural systems instead of against them. Sweetgrass smoke doesn't harm beneficial insects like bees and butterflies. It breaks down naturally without contaminating soil or water. Wildlife isn't affected by the residues that synthetic chemicals leave behind. Safety advantage discovery. Unlike synthetic repellents, sweetgrass actually improves health by providing natural aromatherapy benefits while protecting against insects. The compounds that repel bugs also reduce stress, improve breathing, and boost immune system function in humans. Medical researchers studying traditional plant medicines discovered that regular sweetgrass exposure provides measurable health benefits. The natural compounds act as mild antioxidants, reducing inflammation and supporting respiratory health. Users report improved sleep, reduced anxiety, and better overall well-being. Dr. Maria Gonzalez, who studies traditional medicines at the University of New Mexico, documents cases of people switching from synthetic to traditional repellents for health reasons. We see patients with chemical sensitivities who can't tolerate DEET or other synthetic products. Traditional plant-based methods give them effective protection without harmful reactions. Modern research confirms that traditional sweetgrass contains no toxic compounds when used as directed, unlike synthetic repellents that require warning labels about skin contact, eye exposure, and ingestion risks. Properly prepared sweetgrass is safe for children, pregnant women, and people with chemical sensitivities. Contemporary integration. Today's outdoor education programs increasingly integrate traditional ecological knowledge with modern wilderness skills. Students learn both synthetic and traditional protection methods, understanding when each approach works best. The National Outdoor Leadership School now includes indigenous plant knowledge in advanced wilderness programs. Instructors teach students to identify, harvest, and prepare traditional repellent plants as essential survival skills. Research universities partner with tribal communities to document traditional ecological knowledge before it disappears. These collaborations preserve ancestral wisdom while validating traditional practices through modern scientific methods. The outdoor recreation industry takes notice as more guides and outfitters adopt traditional techniques. Equipment companies develop products inspired by traditional knowledge, portable smoking devices, pre-prepared plant materials, and educational resources that make ancestral wisdom accessible to modern users. Professional survival instructors report that students who learn traditional methods show greater confidence and adaptability in wilderness situations. Understanding multiple protection systems, both modern and traditional, creates resilient outdoor skills that work in any situation. Contemporary research reveals that traditional knowledge often surpasses modern alternatives not despite its age, but because of the centuries of testing and refinement that created it. Each generation improved techniques based on real-world results, creating survival systems optimized through thousands of years of practical application. With this scientific validation and professional endorsement, you're ready to learn how to safely and effectively implement these time-tested Ojibwe techniques in your own modern life, whether for camping, gardening, or emergency preparedness. Sarah Martinez stares at the mosquito-filled campsite where her family planned to spend their vacation week. Their expensive DEET spray leaked during the drive up. The electronic repellent device died when her son dropped it in the lake. Now, with clouds of hungry insects descending at sunset, she remembers the sweetgrass techniques she learned at a cultural workshop last winter. Within 2 hours, her family sits comfortably around their campfire, protected by sweet-smelling smoke that keeps every biting insect at bay. Her children ask how she knew this magic trick. Sarah explains it's not magic, it's 800-year-old Ojibwe science that works better than modern alternatives when you learn to use it properly. Safe sourcing, your first critical step. Most people make this dangerous mistake when first trying traditional methods. They buy poor quality sweetgrass from suppliers who don't understand proper harvesting or storage. Low-grade plant material provides little protection and wastes your time when insects attack. Always source sweetgrass from native-owned businesses that understand traditional preparation methods. Companies like Prairie Edge Trading Company in South Dakota and Crazy Crow Trading Post work directly with tribal communities to ensure authentic materials. These suppliers follow traditional harvesting protocols and support indigenous communities financially. Look for sweetgrass braids that show consistent golden green colour with no brown or black spots. Quality braids release sweet vanilla fragrance when gently squeezed. Avoid grass that looks dull, smells musty, or feels too dry and brittle. Well-prepared sweetgrass should feel flexible without crumbling. Native-owned suppliers on platforms like Etsy offer excellent alternatives, but verify that sellers identify their tribal affiliation and harvesting practices. Authentic suppliers will explain their cultural protocols and seasonal harvesting methods. They understand that poor quality materials damage both effectiveness and cultural reputation. Growing your own, the sustainable long-term solution. This simple modification makes the technique work perfectly in apartments and urban settings. You can grow your own sweetgrass in containers or small garden plots. Sweetgrass, Hierocloe odorata, thrives in zones 3 to 8, making it suitable for most North American climates. Start with plants or flowers rather than seeds for faster establishment. Sweetgrass needs consistently moist soil that never completely dries out. In containers, use rich potting mix with good drainage and water daily during growing season. The plant spreads through underground runners, so container growing prevents it from taking over garden areas. Full sun to partial shade works well, but at least 6 hours of direct sunlight produces the strongest chemical compounds. In garden settings, create raised beds or designated areas because sweetgrass spreads aggressively. Most growers recommend barrier installations to contain the spreading habit. Harvest your own sweetgrass in late June to early July when chemical compounds reach peak concentration. Cut grass low to the ground using sharp scissors or pruning shears. Never pull plants by roots. This damages the spreading system that produces next year's growth. Modern equipment adaptations for safe indoor use. For camping trips, this preparation method ensures effective protection without fire hazards. Use metal containers specifically designed for burning plant materials. Ceramic bowls, small cast iron pots, or specialized incense burners work well. Avoid plastic, glass, or materials that crack under heat. Indoor applications require proper ventilation and fire safety equipment. Open windows and use fans to ensure adequate air circulation. Keep fire extinguishers or water nearby. Never leave burning sweetgrass unattended, even for short periods. Portable smoking methods work well for travel and outdoor activities. Small metal containers with tight-fitting lids can hold glowing sweetgrass coils safely. Drill ventilation holes in container sides to maintain airflow while preventing ember escape. These portable systems create protective smoke clouds around camping areas or work sites. Adding this one step into help increases protection duration by 400%. Treat clothing and gear with concentrated sweetgrass smoke before outdoor activities. Hang clothes in enclosed areas, tents, small rooms or closets, while burning sweetgrass. The smoke penetrates fabric fibers, creating lasting protection that continues working for hours after initial treatment. Progressive skill development. Beginner to expert. Beginner level. Occasional use. Start with pre-prepared sweetgrass braids from native suppliers. Learn basic lighting techniques using simple metal containers in well-ventilated areas. Practice identifying quality grass and proper storage methods. Focus on personal protection for short-term activities like gardening or brief outdoor work. Basic technique involves lighting one end of a braid, letting flames catch briefly, then blowing out fire to create glowing embers. Wave smoking grass around your body and clothing, allowing smoke to penetrate fabrics and cover exposed skin areas. This provides 2 to 4 hours of protection for moderate insect conditions. Intermediate level, regular outdoor activities. Learn clothing treatment methods that extend protection duration. Develop portable burning systems for camping and travel. Practice combination techniques using sweetgrass with other natural repellents like citronella or lavender oil. Understand seasonal timing for optimal effectiveness. Intermediate practitioners create smoke chambers, using tents or tarps to concentrate treatment of clothing and equipment. This method bonds protective compounds more deeply into materials, extending effectiveness to 8 to 12 hours. Learn to recognize weather conditions that affect smoke dispersal and adjust techniques accordingly. Advanced level, extreme conditions. Master cultivation and harvesting for personal supply independence. Develop combination methods using multiple plant medicines. Create stationary and portable systems for family or group protection. Understand entomological principles that explain insect behavior and plant compound interactions. Advanced applications include area protection systems using multiple burning stations to create insect-free zones around camps or work areas. Practitioners learn to read wind patterns, humidity levels, and insect activity cycles to optimize protection timing and methods. Safety protocols, protecting yourself and others. Fire safety requires understanding that sweetgrass burns differently than wood or paper. Plant materials create glowing embers that can remain active for hours. Always use non-flammable containers placed on stable, heat-resistant surfaces. Keep burning materials away from curtains, bedding, and other flammable objects. If your sweetgrass isn't working, check for this common error: insufficient smoke production due to poor quality grass or incorrect burning techniques. Quality sweetgrass should produce thick, visible smoke that continues for 15 to 30 minutes from a single lighting. Thin, sparse smoke indicates low chemical content or improper preparation. Allergic reaction awareness matters because some people show sensitivity to plant smoke or specific chemical compounds. Start with small amounts in well-ventilated areas. Watch for respiratory irritation, skin reactions, or headaches. People with asthma or other breathing conditions should consult healthcare providers before using any smoke-based protection methods. Child and pet safety requires extra precaution because young children and animals show higher sensitivity to smoke exposure. Use outdoor applications when possible. Ensure adequate ventilation for indoor use. Keep burning materials out of reach of curious hands and paws. Never use sweetgrass smoke directly on infants under 6 months old. Legal and ethical guidelines. Respecting cultural origins. Understanding cultural appropriation versus appreciation makes the difference between respectful usage and harmful extraction. Appropriation involves taking traditional knowledge without acknowledgement, permission, or community support. Appreciation includes proper attribution, cultural education, and financial support for indigenous communities. Always acknowledge Ojibwe origins when sharing knowledge with others. Support native-owned businesses for supplies and materials. Learn about contemporary Ojibwe communities and their ongoing cultural preservation efforts. Understand that traditional knowledge represents centuries of accumulated wisdom deserving respect and recognition. Sustainable harvesting practices apply whether you're wildcrafting or buying from suppliers. Never take more than 1/3 of any wild plant population. Harvest during appropriate seasons when plants can recover effectively. Leave robust plants to continue reproducing and supporting ecosystem health. Supporting indigenous communities means more than just buying authentic products. Donate to cultural preservation programs. Attend educational events at tribal cultural centers. Vote for policies that support tribal sovereignty and land rights. Recognize that traditional knowledge systems face ongoing threats and need active protection. Troubleshooting common implementation problems. Weak protection often results from poor quality plant materials or incorrect burning methods. Quality sweetgrass should produce aromatic smoke that continues burning for extended periods. If grass extinguishes quickly or produces little smoke, the chemical compounds may have degraded due to age, poor storage, or low-grade harvesting. Storage problems develop when sweetgrass gets exposed to moisture, direct sunlight, or temperature extremes. Keep braids in dark, dry locations with consistent temperatures. Traditional birch bark containers work well, but modern airtight containers provide effective protection too. Properly stored sweetgrass maintains potency for several years. Timing issues affect effectiveness because insect activity varies with weather, seasons, and daily cycles. Mosquitoes attack most heavily at dawn and dusk. Black flies prefer bright, sunny conditions. Adjust your protection schedule to match local insect patterns. Apply treatments 15 to 30 minutes before entering high-risk areas. Environmental factors like wind, humidity, and temperature influence smoke dispersal and compound effectiveness. Light breezes help distribute protective compounds, while strong winds disperse smoke too quickly. High humidity can dampen plant materials and reduce burning effectiveness. Learn to read weather conditions and adapt techniques accordingly. Modern lifestyle integration. Urban gardening applications allow city dwellers to use traditional methods for pest control without synthetic chemicals, create smoke treatments around outdoor work areas when pruning, weeding, or harvesting garden crops. The natural compounds don't harm beneficial insects like bees and butterflies, while protecting humans from mosquitoes and biting flies. Travel applications work well for international destinations where insect-borne diseases create serious health risks. Portable sweetgrass systems provide chemical-free protection that doesn't trigger customs concerns or allergic reactions. Many travellers report better effectiveness than synthetic repellents in tropical climates. Emergency preparedness integration makes sense because traditional methods work without electricity, batteries, or complex supply chains. Include quality sweetgrass in disaster supply kits alongside matches and fire-safe containers. Learn identification and preparation skills that work with locally available materials if commercial supplies become unavailable. Contemporary outdoor recreation benefits from traditional knowledge that enhances, rather than replaces, modern gear. Backpackers, hunters, and fishing enthusiasts discover that traditional methods provide reliable backup protection when modern equipment fails or supplies run out. As you begin implementing these powerful techniques, it's crucial to understand the deep responsibility that comes with using sacred Ojibwe knowledge and how we can honor the culture that preserved these life-saving methods for future generations. Elder Mary Gurno Spears sits in the teaching circle at the Mille Lacs Indian Museum, her weathered hands holding a sweetgrass braid as she speaks to a group of young Ojibwe students. At 89 years old, she represents one of the last generation who learned traditional plant medicine directly from grandmothers who remembered life before European contact. This knowledge isn't just about keeping bugs away, she explains in a voice soft but strong. It's about staying connected to who we are as Anishinaabe people. When we lose our plant knowledge, we lose part of our souls. Her words echo a crisis facing indigenous communities worldwide. Traditional knowledge that took thousands of years to develop disappears faster than ever as elders pass away without passing on their wisdom to younger generations. The weight of responsibility. When we use this knowledge, we become part of preserving something irreplaceable or contributing to its destruction. The sweetgrass techniques you've learned represent far more than insect protection. They connect you to generations of Ojibwe families who survived harsh wilderness conditions through deep understanding of natural relationships. Using traditional knowledge without acknowledging its origins commits what researchers call epistemological violence, stealing not just techniques, but the cultural meaning that gives those techniques their power. Every time someone burns sweetgrass without understanding its sacred significance to Ojibwe people, they participate in cultural erasure. The difference between appropriation and appreciation comes down to 4 key principles: consent, context, credit, and compensation. Appropriation takes without asking, strips away cultural meaning, claims techniques as discoveries, and provides no benefit to source communities. Appreciation seeks permission, maintains cultural context, gives proper credit, and supports communities financially. Contemporary Ojibwe communities work tirelessly to preserve traditional knowledge while controlling how outsiders use their cultural heritage. The Anjibima Adizing Ojibwe Language and Culture Revitalization Project represents one of many efforts to document disappearing knowledge before it's lost forever. Supporting the living culture. Every purchase from native suppliers directly supports families and communities working to maintain their cultural traditions. Companies like Prairie Edge Trading Post and Crazy Crow Trading Post create economic opportunities for tribal members, while ensuring traditional harvesting and preparation methods continue. But supporting indigenous communities means more than buying authentic products. It requires understanding that Ojibwe people are not historical artifacts. They are living communities with contemporary needs and challenges. The Minneapolis American Indian Center offers free Dakota and Ojibwe language classes to community members working to reconnect with ancestral knowledge. The George W. Brown Jr. Ojibwe Museum and Cultural Center in Lac du Flambeau provides educational programs that help both native and non-native visitors understand traditional knowledge in proper cultural context. These institutions need ongoing support to continue their vital preservation work. Donations, volunteer time, and educational program participation all contribute to maintaining traditional knowledge systems that benefit everyone. Modern Ojibwe communities face the challenge of preserving traditional knowledge while adapting to contemporary life. Young people must balance career demands, educational opportunities, and urban living with learning time-intensive traditional skills from elders. Many community programs focus on making traditional knowledge relevant to modern challenges, showing how ancestral wisdom applies to current environmental problems, health issues, and cultural identity needs. The urgency of preservation. Traditional knowledge holders estimate that without immediate action, up to 90% of indigenous plant medicine knowledge could disappear within the next 50 years. When elders die without passing on their knowledge, entire libraries of ecological wisdom vanish forever. Unlike written information that can be recovered, traditional knowledge lives only in the memories and practices of community members. The Biden-Harris administration's 10-year National Plan on Native Language Revitalization, announced in December 2024, recognizes this crisis by proposing $16.7 billion in funding for tribal language and cultural preservation programs. This unprecedented investment acknowledges that traditional knowledge represents irreplaceable human heritage deserving protection and support. But government funding alone cannot preserve traditional knowledge. It requires active participation from people who understand the knowledge's value and commit to respectful usage practices. When you use sweetgrass techniques properly, acknowledging their Ojibwe origins, purchasing from native suppliers, and sharing knowledge with appropriate cultural context, you participate in preservation efforts. Avoiding sacred appropriation. Understanding the spiritual dimensions of traditional knowledge helps avoid harmful appropriation while respecting cultural boundaries. Sweetgrass holds sacred significance in Ojibwe spiritual practices that extend far beyond practical insect protection. The plant represents the hair of Mother Earth, connects practitioners to ancestral spirits, and plays roles in ceremonies that non-native people should not attempt to replicate. Respectful usage focuses on practical applications while acknowledging spiritual aspects without claiming them. You can use sweetgrass for insect protection while understanding and respecting its sacred meaning to Ojibwe people. You cannot and should not attempt to use sweetgrass in spiritual ceremonies or claim spiritual authority based on plant medicine knowledge. The boundary between practical and sacred use requires ongoing learning and cultural sensitivity. The Ojibwe communities themselves define these boundaries, and respectful practitioners follow indigenous guidance rather than making their own decisions about appropriate usage. Legal frameworks and rights. Indigenous intellectual property rights gain increasing recognition through international legal frameworks. The 2024 WIPO Treaty on Intellectual Property, Genetic Resources and Associated Traditional Knowledge establishes protocols for protecting traditional knowledge from exploitation while allowing respectful sharing with proper attribution and benefit sharing. These legal developments reflect growing understanding that traditional knowledge represents valuable intellectual property deserving the same protections given to modern innovations. When pharmaceutical companies develop drugs based on traditional plant medicines, indigenous communities deserve recognition and compensation for their contributions. Modern legal frameworks also recognize indigenous communities' right to control how their traditional knowledge gets used and shared. Free, prior, and informed consent (FPIC) protocols require seeking community permission before using traditional knowledge, especially for commercial purposes. Building respectful relationships. Creating positive relationships with indigenous communities requires genuine interest in understanding their perspectives, challenges, and aspirations. Visit tribal museums and cultural centers to learn from community members themselves rather than relying on outside interpretations of their culture. Attend powwows and cultural events when the public is invited, but remember you're a guest in someone else's cultural space. Ask questions respectfully, listen more than you speak, and understand that some knowledge may not be appropriate for outsiders to learn. Support tribal sovereignty and land rights through voting and political advocacy. Many traditional plants grow on lands that indigenous communities lost through historical injustices. Supporting efforts to return traditional territories to tribal control helps preserve both the plants and the knowledge systems that developed with them. Armed with this knowledge and cultural understanding, you're ready to join a growing movement of people who recognize that ancestral wisdom holds keys to modern problems, and that preserving these traditions benefits all of humanity. Let's turn this ancient wisdom into action you can take today. First, support native communities by purchasing authentic sweetgrass from indigenous suppliers like Prairie Edge Trading Post or Crazy Crow Trading Company. These businesses directly support tribal artisans and ensure you're getting sustainably harvested, ceremonial-grade sweetgrass. But here's what most people get wrong about their first sweetgrass purchase: safe practice guidelines. Start small with your first practice session. Choose a windless outdoor area away from dry vegetation. Like just one braid tip, let it catch briefly, then blow out the flame until you see steady smoke. Hold the braid by the unlit end, never the burning portion. Keep water nearby and never leave burning sweetgrass unattended. Practice the Ojibwe method. Gentle, steady smoke directed around your body, not thick clouds. Remember, this isn't about creating maximum smoke, it's about steady, consistent protection that won't overwhelm beneficial insects like bees and butterflies. Community engagement opportunities. Want to learn directly from Ojibwe knowledge keepers? Here's where. Visit authentic cultural centres like the George W. Brown Junior Ojibwe Museum in Lac du Flambeau, Wisconsin, or the Mille Lacs Indian Museum in Minnesota. Many host educational programs where tribal members share traditional ecological knowledge respectfully. Join local outdoor clubs that emphasize leave no trace principles and indigenous land acknowledgement. Attend powwows and cultural events, not as tourists, but as respectful learners supporting native communities through admission fees and authentic craft purchases. Continued learning resources. Expand your knowledge through books like Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer, an enrolled member of the Citizen Potawatomi Nation. Subscribe to Heritage Hacks for our upcoming episodes on traditional fire-making techniques and indigenous weather prediction methods. Follow Indigenous voices on social media platforms. Support native language revitalization efforts. The Biden administration's recent $16.7 billion investment in native language preservation creates opportunities for cultural exchange and learning. Skill development and cultural support. Start with basic sweetgrass identification and safe burning techniques. Progress to understanding seasonal harvesting cycles and sustainable collection practices. Advanced practitioners might explore combinations with other traditional plants like sage or cedar, always with proper cultural guidance. But the most powerful part of this knowledge isn't the technique, it's what happens when we modern relevance and climate connection. With climate change expanding mosquito ranges and extending active seasons, traditional knowledge becomes increasingly valuable. As temperatures rise, mosquito-borne diseases like West Nile virus and Zika spread to new regions. The Ojibwe understood long-term environmental patterns that modern science is just beginning to appreciate. Military survival instructors now teach sweetgrass techniques alongside modern repellents. Wilderness guides carry braided sweetgrass as backup protection. These aren't primitive methods, they are sophisticated solutions tested across generations. For over 800 years, the Ojibwe people have thrived in mosquito-heavy environments using nothing but plants, knowledge, and respect for natural systems. They solved problems we're just now recognizing, long before we thought they existed. In our rush toward technological solutions, we often forget that our ancestors weren't surviving, they were thriving. They developed sustainable, effective methods that worked in harmony with the environment rather than against it. The question isn't whether traditional knowledge works, it's whether we're wise enough to listen. Subscribe for more heritage hacks, because sometimes the future lies in remembering the past. And remember, every time you choose traditional methods over harsh chemicals, you're not just protecting yourself, you're honouring generations of indigenous wisdom and supporting a more sustainable world.